Hi, this is Eric Colburn from ericcolburn.com and Colburn Strategic Partners, and welcome back for exercise 3 of the DataGram 3D Working with Real Data course in the Professional Land Surveyor Learning Center at ericcolburn.com/learn. It's a free course. Please feel free to visit ericcolburn.com/learn to register. So, a quick overview of where we are at this point. We've inserted or imported a lot of raw data into the software and processed it, being images that we linked together, a calibration file that was used to facilitate that, and then we georeferenced the images by bringing in a survey control file and selecting a few anchor points, photo identifiable points that we located or that were located in the field to georeference them. And at this point, that's where we are. And as soon as I go to the next screen, the Measure and Draw tab, all the images will be georeferenced so that we can pick any image that we want. Let's say we pick the first image because it's just simple to do, but you can pick any image that you'd like to work on, and we'll just start drawing. This is really where the rubber meets the road, no pun intended, looking at a street intersection here with DataGram 3D, but it's really almost addictive, really fun to do, to be able to draw right on images and extract full 3D coordinates and draw 3D objects. For instance, we can draw points, polylines, and polygons. Okay, so just a little bit of background about drawing. Couple things we can do. You can see at the top we're on new for creating what we call new points. The next point number it's going to use is 164, and it's going to automatically update that. And then we have a few codes here we can pick. We have top of curb, ST for stripes, P for poles. Okay, I'm going to pick stripes because that's what I'm going to draw. If you want to import a code file or add your own codes, you can come to Tools, Point Code Library, and then just New, and put that data in, or import. Another thing that I didn't mention because I just assumed you'd had it turned on, but maybe it's a good point, is throughout the process and certainly up to this point, we want to make sure under Tools that Auto Find is selected. That's an important feature throughout the software, but particularly here as I show you what we're going to do to create new points. The other thing we can do is create layers. So let's create a layer, and we're going to call it stripes. Okay, and we'll give that a green color. Okay, and now that becomes I think I called it stipes. So let's edit that layer. Let's put an R in there. Stripes. There we go. Okay, and we'll make that active. And you see we can show or not show. There's nothing really drawn in here yet. So, but as soon as we start drawing elements in DataGram 3D, we can turn them off or on to show them or not by layer. So really, this is the key feature. This is really what we want to be using DataGram 3D for. Is let's just say we come in here and we want to draw this stripe. We click. Okay, white node, which I don't think shows up so well in the videos, but on your screen when you're using the software, you'll see it, means that we've clicked on an image, which is this image, and then you can see up in the right-hand corner here, it says auto finding that in other images. And now we don't have to wait for that to happen, but I just wanted to show it to you. When it's found it in two other images, it's now extracted a full 3D coordinate for that point, and it turns green. Okay, so let's just come over here. We'll just finish. And when you get to the last node, if you double click, just a handy hint there, if you double click, it will close the object or end the command if it's a polygon, or polyline rather. I'm sorry, I misspoke. So again, we don't have to wait. We can just keep drawing. Okay. There's no need to wait for it. The software will be working in the background, finding these points for you. But what I do want to wait for 1 minute is just for these to finish so that I can show you what's really happening here. A couple of things. Now, some of it will go into much more detail when we get to There we go. So it found all 8 corners there and they're green. Let's just select one of these objects. Okay. If we go look at it from another image, there's that object projected, and you can see the other one next to it, projected correctly onto other images. So the beauty of it is I could work on that first image and do some drafting, but at any point in time I can switch to another image and do more drafting if I'd like. All right, let's go back to the first image that we were drafting on, and let's add another layer. We'll call it poles. We'll give that a blue color. Don't know why, but all right. And let's just see if we can draw this pole here. I'm actually hoping it doesn't work, but let's see what happens, because I want to show you something. Now, not every time will it be successful in finding other... it worked. Okay, so first thing, let's just go to the view. And what we can see is it's full 3D. Right, here's the 2 stripes that I drew. And there's the bottom and the top of the pole. So that is one thing I wanted to show you. But let's go back to measure and draw. Let's just say for a minute we turn off auto find. Okay, I'm going to create a point. And let's just pick the top of this light stanchion here, support. Okay, so now it's not going, I've turned it off, so it's not going to go find that in other screens. But occasionally you'll be drawing, you may not get green results, and you might have to manually go in and adjust this. So if we just select it, you can see over on the left hand side it shows these yellow lines on other images. So it knows at that point, shows up actually in probably every image, but a lot of images. But it doesn't quite know where it is because it hasn't searched for it, because I turned off the feature. It would have worked on its own, I'm sure. But what we can do is split the screen, and then we can drag these other images in. We probably don't need the 4th one, but I'll drag it in. And that yellow line is an epipolar line, and what it means is that if I can just click on this image here for a minute, zoom out. So the point that I clicked on originally, it knows the geometry from the camera orientation of that image to that point, and then using that vector, it's able to say that somewhere along this yellow line, that same point is located, and these other yellow lines in these other images. Now, in the, I guess, almost the worst case scenario, if you will, I would then click on the point in a second image to tell the software where it is. Typically, it would then switch from a yellow line to a very small white circle, because it would be getting a lot closer to verifying it on 3 images and refining that geometry. But I almost suspect, oh, maybe with auto find off it won't do it. With auto find on, it pretty good, even if you just select the second image and finding it in the 3rd image, it automatically. But let's just turn on the names for a minute, because I forget. So this is point number 174. So what we can do is come up here, oops, activate this screen. We can come in, and so click on the point selection tool. I'm using existing 174, and we'll just click on it. Was it 175? Okay, so I had new points instead of existing point. So what I had to do was reset the point number just at the top. I didn't realize I had selected new instead of existing. And so now I'm going to place 174 there, and actually it did exactly what I thought it was going to do. Was now the epipolar line goes away, and it's really close on refining where the geometry is for this point number 174, and it's only a few pixels off from where I would estimate it to be. And then we can click on that. Now it's in 3 images, and it turns green because it's extracting a full 3D coordinate for that. But certainly what we can do is come in here and add them. But I'll be honest with you, at that point, I would go back to probably be a little faster if you went back to the regular one full screen, and you could go to the approved screen, which, by the way, we're talking at, a few 5 or 6 hundredths of a foot. But here's the one I first clicked on. Let's go back to tools, click auto find back on before I forget to do that. And I can then come in, and it's a little quicker on the screen activation to come in here, and then I can refine that and add it to as many. I'm not sure quite what I'm looking for on that other one there. Yeah, we can see that one nice and clear. And then these are blocked. This one I can see, but these are blocked by the sign on top of it a little, so they're not good sources. But there's the top of the pole, under a tenth, and it's a round circular top, so who knows if I went in and zoomed in, which you can do, and maybe refined where the top is, maybe you can make it more accurate. But so that's how, if for whatever reason when you're doing measure and draw you still end up with a white node because it hasn't found it in 2 other images automatically, there is a manual process of going through and solving the location for that point. Okay, so really that's it. Measure and draw. The only thing that I haven't mentioned, which I'm not going to in this course, is the polygon, is the automatic topo points feature. Again, that's sort of like the polygon feature. You'll just draw the polygon and it will extract 3D coordinates or points automatically as a surface or for a surface. So that's a little beyond what we're going to be doing here. What I would like you to do now is to go in, and really doesn't matter what images you work on. I'd like you to draw some of the striping within the area that we've bounded with our control, right? We don't want to be drawing something way up the road here near the top, for instance, in this image, that's outside of our survey control, because at that point, or our georeferencing control, because at that point we're extracting or extrapolating rather results rather than figuring out where they are within the control that was there. Definitely that would lead to inaccurate results. But the other thing we can do too is, again, with projections, select all. We can project that conventional surveying control onto the images too, so you can just get a good, as we did in the georeferencing, we get a good feel for what was located, that it's accurate and that it's working. So what I'd like you to do again is to go through, do some drafting of this intersection as an exercise on your own. Okay. I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to stop the video for a second, and I'm going to do some drafting. I'm going to draft for about 10 or 15 minutes, and then we can look at that and look at it in the 3D viewer, and that'll give us some good data to work on in the next 2 sections, which is the approved screen, which should not be very long, and the view and export, where we want to look at the results and export it to our CAD files. Okay, so I'm going to stop the video again for 10, maybe 15 minutes while I do some drafting. I'd like you to do some drafting too. And remember, you're not stuck with only doing the roads like I've been showing. You can do the poles. Okay, we can do some of the buildings. There's some guardrails there. There's some taller poles I see, some signs. Definitely feel free to draw whatever it is you can see. All right, be back in a few seconds on the video, but it'll be about 10 or 15 minutes in actuality. Okay, so I got a little overboard. I really got lost in what I was doing, and I ended up drawing for about 25 minutes, and I did, let's see, do some math here, 164. So I did 359 new points. I actually only created individual points for a small handful, which you can see in the middle of the intersection here. So when I say new points, I created new points, but with all line work associated with it, polylines or polygons. Let's look at the view screen. So you can see I drew some of the major islands, some of the light posts, and the building in the background a little bit, the windows and some of the walls, just to show you that we're doing 3D. It looks like the building's up a little higher because I didn't draw the bottom of the building at the sidewalk. I was just taking the obvious and easy stuff, and there may be obstructions there. There might be something in the way visually that you can't always draw that. So that's something that in the field you do have to keep in mind, that where there are something is not visually obstructed in the photo, we can always draw it if it shows up on 3 images. But in the field, if you need to locate something that is behind a fence or a shrub or something like that, or cars, I think, which is actually the case in front here, maybe, you'll have to do that. But you can see I drew some of the striping and the traffic arrows here, all without having to go out in the road. As far as the the approve screen, rather, all pretty good results. I got a few things. I did do a little bit of editing. About 10 minutes I went through and edited and added a few points, which you can just come in. You can see. We'll go over that in the next video by just clicking on the screen. There were a couple things that had to be cleaned up. Particularly, you'll see there are a few red results here in a few tenths of a feet because there were some cross members on the light post where there really was not an obvious place to click on that structure, which was overhead sign post or light post, so that when you come into this screen, it's just not easy to see where you clicked consistently. And that's something to keep in mind, that perhaps when you're doing new points in DatuGram 3D, I'll just give you an idea here. You can see, like if I were doing the top of curb, this is an alternating color kind of bit berm on here, Cape Cod sort of berm. I don't know if they call that in Israel where these pictures were taken. Probably not. But where there's that visual break between the white and the black is a good place to click. That way, if you need to go in the approved screen and make adjustments, you can see exactly where you initially selected on the image. So there were a couple of times, like with these poles, not exactly sure where. I mean, I know I have a location on the pole when I clicked the first time, but if I have to go back and edit that later, it's just not very easy to do so because you don't know exactly where you are. But with that said, something like that, where really more for graphics purposes, I don't think you really need the overall accuracy. If you were doing something that you needed heights, for instance, then we can, definitely zoom in on a known point like the corner of this traffic light. So some of this is really for just general mapping, and other of it is for precision, if you will, to get very accurate results. All right, so you can see the building here. I drew some of the windows and just a little bit of the structure, the roof line, sort of a second, I guess it's a second roof line underneath, and then a little bit of the overhead roofs that stick out over the storefronts themselves. And really the only thing I didn't do, I could have probably placed a few points along the bottom. But again, you can see it's obstructed at some points because of vehicles here. So that's definitely something that you would need maybe to locate manually out in the field. conventionally, I should say, if you were going to be needing that kind of detail. This is definitely, there are limitations to what you can do here, and one of the limitations is you have to be able to see what it is you're drafting. Okay, so, but you know, the interesting thing is, again, getting really good results from hundredths of a foot to probably a tenth of a foot on average, or better actually on average. And we can refine that when we'll show you that in the next step on the approve screen. We'll go into a little more detail on the next exercise on that. And the big thing is safety, though, right? We did not have to go out in this road, and I did, you know, about 360 points in about maybe half an hour, 35 minutes with a little bit of editing. So I think that's pretty good if you're sitting at your desk, nice and cozy, whether it's hot or cold outside. You're in a climate-controlled environment, which is nice, and you did not need to either go up high on a building or out into a road where it is potentially dangerous. So there you go. That's how to measure and draw in DatuGram 3D. Please stay tuned. The next video is going to be, as I said, about an exercise about the approve screen. Let me know how you made out with your drafting. Hopefully you went along and drew a lot of things too. And I'd be happy to see what you did. Obviously, at the end of the class, we'll go over the exporting. Maybe when you're done, you can export a DXF file and just email that to me, and then I can look it over and see how you made out, and let me know how quickly it took you to do that. I think you'll find it's a very fast process, even if you want to take a lot of time to go in and edit these points for really high-end accuracies, if you will, or redundancies, really, is what I think you'll see when we do the approve screen. So this is Eric Colburn from ericcolburn.com and Colburn Strategic Partner with exercise 3, measure and draw of the DatuGram 3D working with real data course on the Professional Land Surveyor Learning Center, which you can sign up for at ericcolburn.com/learn. Thank you, work smart, and be brilliant.